we just got done a couple weeks ago with my least favorite time of the season, which was tryout season for our travel program. I despise it. I hate everything about it. It's a necessary evil, but it's the most miserable 6 days of the whole year, because it's just, you're going to have to make hard decisions, and all of the dynamics that go into that. But we start every tryout and we break them by day, by age, but every tryout starts with go play catch. Go play catch. We do our little spiel. We bring everybody together. We introduce ourselves, and then it's okay. Go out in right field, go out in left field, get a partner, play catch, and we will sit back and watch for 10 minutes.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Clearing the Bases, the podcast where we step up to the plate and dive deep into the world of youth baseball. I'm your host, Jimmy Filangieri. On this show, we discuss all things related to the preparation and development of youth baseball players, coaches, and yes, even parents. So sit back, settle in, and get ready to hear from some of the greatest baseball minds out there.
Get comfortable with them failing. And if they can't get comfortable failing, baseball's probably not the sport for them, because there's no sport that's going to beat you down. Maybe golf, and I say that only because my golf game is terrible. But baseball is going to beat you down, and it's never going to love you back the way that you love it. And if you can't get comfortable and get tough and learn how to navigate that, well, it's not going to get easier, especially as you get older. And like we've been talking about, the competition gets stiffer. And now, holy cow, everybody here is really good.
To be able to reach the highest levels of this game, you got to work hard. You got to get in the cages. You got to do your strength and conditioning. You got to throw your bullpens. There's all of this physical stuff that you need to do, and you need to work hard at it. But don't forget that you also have to get better at the mental side of the game. And one of the ways you can do that is increase baseball IQ by downloading and using the 6-Tool app.
For baseball coaches like you, every game brings measurable progress. However, game time isn't the time for trial and error learning. Instead, have a proactive approach. Use 6-Tool, the best baseball player development tool on the market. We provide a platform to level up your coaching strategy by helping you to quickly identify and address your players' knowledge of the game. By using our easy-to-implement interactive player quizzes, you can assess position-specific issues, overall baseball IQ, and much more. Win more games and develop better overall baseball players with effective off-the-field training. Visit us at 6-tool.com. 6-Tool. Get ahead in the game.
Okay, everybody, so we're going to jump back into the high school ranks and the travel baseball ranks. Today's guest is Shawn Chuipek. He is the co-founder and director of Muscle Baseball and Dynamis Baseball. That's in Morton Grove, Illinois, and he's also one of the JV coaches at Notre Dame College Prep. How are you doing today, Shawn?
I'm doing great, Jimmy. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to jump on and have a conversation with you, and super excited to be part of this.
Well, I appreciate you bearing with me, trying to get the introduction done, because, I'm not the brightest guy in the world, and you just found out that some things give me a real hard time, but it's a pleasure to have you. So talk to me. Let's start with Muscle Baseball. How did that all come about?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. If you don't mind, though, I'd like to kind of take a second and kind of thank you for what you're doing here within the baseball community. And we had an opportunity to talk yesterday before we jumped on this Zoom meeting for, 30, 40 minutes or whatever it is. And I shared with you my thoughts on, on the community of baseball. And I said, if you go and you talk to a football coach, and you'll probably remember this conversation. And you talk to a football coach at any level, and it doesn't even have to be like super high level football, but everything is very guarded and protected, and they don't want to necessarily share their philosophies or their schemes or their practice plans or how they're prepping for the next opponent. And it's been my experience, and hopefully yours as well, that the polar opposite is true within the baseball community, right? If I have yet to meet a baseball coach who isn't willing to share absolutely everything they have, from how they run their practices to their offensive strategies to how they're doing base running to whatever it is you need. They are willing to share and sometimes overshare. And you may ask them a very specific question, and all of a sudden you're getting an email with, 17 attachments on everything from how they're doing their blocking progressions with their catchers to how they're doing their outfielder stuff. So I say that only in that you are one of the foundational pieces in that community, and what you're doing here and bringing coaches together is incredible, because there's not a day that goes by where I don't question my own ability as a baseball coach. And the comfort that I take is knowing that I have resources like you and other resources locally and across the country that you can reach out to at any given time. And again, I have yet to meet a baseball guy who isn't willing to share. Yeah. And I think that that's how we all get better as coaches, and in turn make our players better. So what you're doing here is incredibly special. And I listen regularly and take bits and pieces from every guest that you have, and some things you can do and some things you can't, whether that's because of time or financial restrictions or facility or whatever. But there's always some nuggets that you can pull out and hopefully make yourself a better coach. And that's what I'm constantly trying to do. So wanted to make sure that I recognized your efforts here, and thank you not only for having me, but for everything that you're doing within the baseball community.
Well, I can tell you that I very much appreciate the kind words, and I'm very humbled by what you just said. But, like you said, with baseball coaches, the whole idea is for us to try and make each other and others better at what we do, okay? Because, again, let's face it, football, basketball, other sports are not as, I'll say, not as technical, I guess is the word I want to use, as baseball. There's so many facets to baseball that we need to try and master. Now, anybody that's coach, a baseball coach at any level, knows that we never know everything. So the idea is to bring guys on like yourself and share your stories, share your thoughts. And, if there's a coach somewhere in some other part of the country who might be working with 6 and 7 year olds, and they can take one little thing from what we do on this show, and it makes them better, then we did our job.
Yeah, I agree completely. Now we're going to catch a lot of grief from the football coaches out there. We love you guys, so don't take it the wrong way. I understand your protective nature, but, different on the baseball side, and certainly unique, and happy to be a part of it. So, back to your original question about our travel program. So we are in Morton Grove, Illinois, which is, maybe 17 miles or so, 20 miles from downtown Chicago, northwest suburb. We started our program essentially in the winter of 2020, and the conversation started in 2019. And what we were realizing is we had our very standard, house rec components within our community, but we didn't have an outlet for those baseball players who maybe wanted to play a little bit more competitive baseball or really kind of dive deeper into the baseball world. And we were losing our best baseball players to other communities who had quote unquote travel baseball options. And we sat down, a group of us, and really started to talk about the feasibility of doing it within our own community. And there's some very clear boxes that needed to be checked before we decided to launch it. Do we have the numbers and the potential skill set to be competitive? And you can define competitive however you want. Do we have the financial means to get this off the ground, because there certainly is a business component to doing this type of stuff. And that shouldn't be the main driver, it certainly can't be ignored either. And then I think that the big question that we had to ask ourselves is why? Why do we want to do this? And what we came back with, and what has become kind of our North Star in our mission statement, is we want to really prepare young athletes who want to play baseball competitively and give them the opportunity to go and compete at the high school level, right? Like, we want to get you ready to play high school baseball. And that's kind of, for our younger guys, for our 8 through 14, you guys, that's kind of the lighthouse that we use. Is this is what we're doing, is everything is a stepping stone to get you ready, so that when you walk in as a freshman to one of our, high schools in the area, that you are competent and you are confident and you're ready to compete and hopefully ready to contribute. And that's kind of been our driver from day one. And as we enter our, next summer will be our 6th season, we started to see it this last school year, the fruits of our labor starting to develop as we entered our first group of freshmen into their area high schools, and to get the amount of text messages and phone calls saying, "Hey coach, I made my high school team. Hey coach, I made my JV team." That really solidified that we're doing the right thing for the right reasons, and certainly hope to have that continued level of success for years to come. So we're entering our 6th year, and we've been pretty successful up to this point. I think, again, you can define success however you want, but we define it as, are we making better young men, and are we preparing them to play high school athletics? And conversations down the road can be spawned around collegiate athletics and stuff, but that's not our core mission when it comes to the younger kids.
You stole my thunder there for a second, because that's exactly what I was going to say. And we talked about it a little bit yesterday when we were on the phone. Most travel organizations, and again, I'm not saying all, but a lot, that's their battle cry. Come play for us. We'll get you placed in college. We know the recruiters. We da-da-da-da-da. And this is what they're pushing. So they give these kids these aspirations of playing at the college level. You're different. You're saying that you're preparing them for high school. You're not giving them this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's, hey, we're going to help you get to the next level, and then whatever happens after that happens after that. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that you have to take it one step at a time, right? And that's not to say that we ever want to diminish or dash anybody's aspirations, right?
Of course not.
I want to hear kids tell me that they have aspirations of playing college baseball. And I think that that's fantastic. And we're certainly supportive of that, but we want them to kind of understand the process. And the process starts with, can you even make your high school baseball team? Because if you can't do that, there's not a college in the country that will even know that you exist. So we have to go incrementally. We have to have a plan. We have to have a system in place that allows you to be successful every time you take the next step on the ladder. And where the ladder ends is up to you and your athletic ability and your work ethic. But in the short term, it's, can I be successful at 10U and be ready to play 11U? And then can I progress to 12U and 13 and 14? And by the time I'm a freshman, can I walk onto the field the first day of freshman tryouts, which in Chicago is never in the field. It's in a field house because it's freezing. But can you walk in there with a level of confidence and competitiveness and have the coach look at you and say, okay, this kid knows how to play baseball? Because that's not always a thing, right? And as a high school coach, you get kids trying out for your teams who it looks like this is the first time that they've ever thrown a baseball. And we love them for being there, but we want our kids to be able to go in there and not draw negative attention, but rather have coaches make decisions that, hey, this kid can be a contributor to our program.
Right. I'm just going to expand a little bit on what you just said, because you said, you get a kid and it looks like he never threw a baseball before in his life. That's fine. Okay. If the kid never, if the kid never did, but what I see happening is these kids have been playing baseball for 10 years and they still come to us and they still don't know how to throw a baseball. They still don't know how to, I can go through down a whole list of things that they don't know how to do. And also what you had said about, going from high school to college. Okay. So it seems to me that it's almost like the kids nowadays think it's just a rite of passage. Well, I'm playing high school ball now. Okay. I got to get ready. I got to play, college baseball because I'm going to get a school that's going to pick me up and I'm going to go play college. Well, wait a minute. Are you competing at the high school level? Can you make it here? And I've seen it time and time again where guys that can't make it at the high school level, and is all they're worried about is going to showcases and camps and this and that. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why don't we try to get better first?
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here. For me, it's about that development piece. And listen, there's lots of great travel organizations out there.
Yes.
And it's not my job to say this is good, this is bad. I know what we do. I'm comfortable with what we do. And it really is, we talk about it, and we're blessed, and I'm blessed to be surrounded by a bunch of great coaches, both at Notre Dame and guys like Joe Pauly and Eric Sanders, who are phenomenal coaches, and then help and coach on the travel side with me as well on the muscle side. And, we've talked about a number of things, as you can imagine, over the course of the years as baseball coaches do when they get together. But, you almost have to look at it like, if I walked into a karate dojo right now at 49 years old, I'm starting off as a white belt.
Yeah.
Right. And there might be a 12-year-old that's a black belt that could kick my butt. And that's cool, but you have to start with something. Right. And baseball can kind of be the same way in that, hey, let's get your white belt and let's teach you how to play catch, and then we're going to elevate you to a yellow belt and we're going to teach you how to field ground balls. And we're going to there's this system that has to be built again so that they're learning this stuff. And like you said, I love a kid who shows up to a baseball tryout and looks like they never played baseball in their life, because at least they're willing to put themselves out there and compete. And we can teach the fundamentals of baseball. The real question is, do you have the work ethic and the commitment and the drive to learn it and retain it and implement it and get better at it? And it's been my experience that those kids sometimes end up being really, really good baseball players because you're starting with a blank slate and you can build it the proper way. But baseball is a game for everybody, I guess, until it's not a game for everybody. And our job is to make sure that it's a game for these kids for as long as their athleticism and their dedication keeps them going.
Yeah. And I agree with you. A lot of times you see kids that and I had it just happen last year. Freshmen came in and, we were introducing them to our catch play program and the way we do it. And he was struggling. He couldn't hit his partner. He was throwing it over his head. He was throwing it left. He was throwing it right. And my coaches said, oh, geez, this kid, poor kid can't throw the ball. And I said, that kid is going to be a stud by the time he's a senior. And they're looking at me like, what, are you crazy? He can't throw the baseball. I said, he's
right.
he's raw. He's raw. He's got the body for it. He moves well. Let's teach him.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. I think that, baseball is a team sport, right? And I think that increasingly, and this is just, again, my humble opinion, but increasingly in recent history, it has become very much an individual sport within a team environment. And what I mean is everybody's got their pitching coach and everybody's got their hitting coach. And I love those guys. I do hitting lessons. I think that there's value in that. And I think that there's a place for that. But sometimes we lose the concept of team baseball when we're so entrenched in our own individual success. And I coach for and with a guy named Joe Pauly, who played collegiately and played some professional baseball, and now is the head JV coach at the high school. And I've learned a tremendous amount from him. And I remember we were having one of our team huddles, or maybe it was a classroom session because it was 32 degrees and snowing outside in, late April. And he made a comment that at first I think everybody kind of was taken aback by. And he said, "I love you as an individual." And he was talking to the team. "I love you all as individuals, and I want you all to be individually successful. But when we put on the uniform and we go and we play a game, I don't care about you as an individual." And I think for 16, 17-year-old kids, and even for me in the moment, it was like a very harsh kind of statement at face value. But when he started to explain it, and when I had a chance to kind of process it, I understood fully what he was saying, is that when we come together collectively as coaches, I don't care about your personal success. I care about, are you doing what's best for the team? Are you doing what gets us that run across home plate, or does whatever needs to be done to accomplish our goal as a team? And I think that I have since taken that message that I heard and was a little taken aback by 3 years ago when I first heard it, and really embraced it and really leaned into it, because again, getting back to it's a team sport, but I don't want it to be an individual effort. Right. And we have to, I think that's one of the opportunities, and would love to hear your opinion, obviously, as somebody who coaches the high school level, is, we got to get back to the we and not the me. And if you come into our facility, it's written in big, bold letters on our wall, "We, not me," because while I want you to be successful and I love you, I love the team more.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you that I talk to my players until I'm blue in the face about the program has to be built from within. Okay. Which means that you guys build the program, not us as coaches. So in order to do that, you have to work with each other and want to make sacrifices for each other game wise. Okay. So one of the biggest things that I see, that, to your point, that because it's become so individualistic, is the example I use all the time: runner on second base, no outs. Okay. And you ask a kid to bunt to move that runner over, or hit to the right side to move that runner over. They don't understand that part of the game. They've never been taught that. Okay. And it takes, days and weeks and months and sometimes even years to make them understand that you're playing for your brother who's on second base. And we want to get him over to third base. You need to do, whether you get a hit or not, it doesn't matter. We need to get him over. So
yeah, it's called sacrificing for a reason, right?
Exactly. And it's very, very difficult in this day and age. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it takes a lot of work to do what that coach said.
Yeah, 100%. And it's hilarious that you even bring up that example or that analogy, because we talk about that very thing all the time. Are you willing to give yourself up so that he can move over and put us in a better position to score a run? And that's a maturity thing, and unfortunately it seems like that maturity level doesn't hit until later in high school a little bit, because when you first ask a kid, okay, runner on second, less than 2 outs, or runner on third, less than 2 outs, what are you trying to do here? Very rarely do you hear, well, if I just roll the ground ball to the second baseman, I'm going to score that kid from third base. What you hear is, I'm going to hit the ball deep into the outfield. It's like, okay, well, first of all, you weigh 118 pounds. How far are you hitting it? Can you assure that you're hitting it far enough that he can tag up? Have you studied the outfielder's arms to know if we can even compete and tag up on that? And it's having those conversations with kids that at some point, and like you said, sometimes it takes days, sometimes it takes weeks, months, years, but the hope is at some point the light bulb goes off and they say, oh, I get it. Because someday I might be the runner at third base, and I sure would like my teammate to give himself up so that I could score, so that we could score. But I think that that's a maturity issue. I think that that's at times a selfishness by players,
Yeah.
right? It's about me. Like, look how good of a hitter I am. And I tell kids all the time, like, are you a kid that can hit the baseball or are you a hitter? Because there's two different things,
Yeah.
right? Lots of kids can hit a baseball. Do you understand situational hitting? Do you understand what it takes right now? Because that's what hitters do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want hitters.
Yep. Yeah. I mean,
kids who can hit baseball, cool, but I want hitters.
yeah. I mean, the other thing that, kind of on the same subject is roles. So at the younger levels, kids don't understand that as you climb that ladder, your role is going to change. And when you get to high school, especially varsity high school, the way I explain it to my players is I say varsity baseball is the lowest level of high-level baseball. Okay, so now
That's great. That's great.
Now we're going to start playing the game the way the big boys play. Okay, you're going to have a role. Now, I have players that don't embrace that. Okay, so and a case in point is I'll use two kids that just come to mind right now. They're decent pitchers. They're pretty good pitchers, but they couldn't hit a barn with a shovel. Okay, they are dissatisfied because they're not in the lineup. They don't want to be pitcher onlys. They want to hit. Well,
sure.
They don't understand that. Listen to me. When you go out there and you execute your role, that's what your job is on the team. That's all we need you for. Go out there and do your role. And we have other guys here that, like you said, know how to hit.
Yeah.
So again, that's something that I would imagine you guys see. Working with the younger guys before high school.
Yeah, I think that there is some, we play in a league during the summer, and then we play in a bunch of tournaments, and oftentimes, let's just use 14 and under as an example, 14 down to, 9. A lot of it is like continuous batting order, right? Everybody on the roster bats. And then all of a sudden they get to high school and it's like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm not in the lineup? What do you mean I don't get to bat and that I'm on the bench until I get subbed in, And I think that that's a little bit of culture shock for them that we try and prepare them for. And when it's preordained that you're going to bat and you're going to get a certain number of innings defensively, I think that hinders competitiveness a lot of times, right? And I tell kids, because I coach the older kids in our travel program and then I coach our summer high school team. Oh, you want to be the starting shortstop? Good. Go compete with those two dudes and prove that you're the starting shortstop. I'm not anointing you the starting shortstop in February. What are we talking about right now, right? So it's about getting them to compete and then getting them to understand their roles. And one of the things that we do on our 16U team and our 15U team is we don't necessarily have POs. We have some kids who organically kind of evolve into that. But if you're a starting pitcher for me on a day one tournament game, you're not hitting. Even if you're the best hitter on the team, right? You may be the best hitter and the best pitcher on the team, but when I ask you to be the pitcher, somebody's DHing for you. Because A, I just need you to focus on pitching right now.
Yeah.
And B, oftentimes, the lack of maturity. Well, if I'm pitching and now I go up to bat and I have a crappy at bat and I strike out, do I have the maturity to flush that and go out and pitch the next inning? Or am I going to sulk and feel sorry for myself and pity party, and then all of a sudden my pitching falls off because I'm all in my feels?
Yeah.
Right? So we start to isolate, like, this is your job. This is your job right now.
Yeah.
And this is what I need you to focus on. And then if you want more, it's contingent on you to earn that. I tell kids all the time, did your mom or dad go to college? And they're like, yeah. They went to wherever. They had to pay to go there, right? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah, they had to pay. I'm like, when they paid, They didn't automatically get a diploma. They didn't automatically get a degree. They had to go to class. They had to do the assignments. They had to do the work. The same thing holds true here for our travel program. You paying to be a part of this pays for access. It pays for coaching. It pays for the fancy facility that you get to work in. It doesn't guarantee you playing time. You have to earn it, just like your parents who paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to go and get their college degree had to earn the diploma. Paying is not a foregone conclusion that you get, right? You get something out of it. You go to the store, you buy a shirt, you get the shirt. Here's not like that. This is the real world where you got to work, you got to compete, you got to earn it, you got to understand your role. And when we can start to break that, then we start to produce kids who get it, not only on the baseball field, but will get it for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Whether that's as a husband, a brother, an employee, an employer, you get what you earn and you get what you work for. And don't complain to me when you got really good at TikTok in February, but you can't hit a curveball. What did you do?
Right. Yeah, and again, that's another thing that happens a lot. Okay, where, the kids think that, and I always go back to very young ages where you have a player that's really good. But wait a minute, you know what? Before I get into that, there's something I wanted to mention about what we were just talking about the
Sure.
different roles and getting guys. I love what you said about when a guy pitches for you, that's it, he's pitching and that's it. I love it. Even when I was coaching travel ball, what I would do would be, I would have 2 or 3 pitchers for that game, and they would be on the bench. And I would tell them, hey, guys, you guys are pitching today. If, little Johnny has a hard time, we have you sitting here so we can get you loose, we can get you in, we don't waste time. And the reason why I did it was, well, actually for convenience for me, I just don't like when I see coaches pull a kid off the field and put him on the mound. That makes me crazy.
Yeah, we're the same. We're on the same page there. I do the exact same thing.
Yeah. And it was setting them up for them to, to understand that when they get up at higher levels, that's the way it is. You're going to have a role, and that's it. Okay, so I just wanted to highlight that. And then I started to say about players when they were younger and everybody telling them how good they are. Now, kid that's 10, 11, 12, and he's a very good baseball player, you and I know that he's a good baseball player because he's inherently talented, not because he's been taught how to play the game well, but he's athletic. He's inherently athletic. When you start to climb that ladder, it's like you said, now you have to earn it because all of those other guys are just as athletically talented and, they can do the same things that you do. So I blame a lot of it, again, on when the boys are young, holding them accountable and making them understand when they're very young that you have to work for that spot. So if you're on a 10-year-old travel team and you're the shortstop and you're the number 1 pitcher, if you do something wrong, and usually a mental thing or most of the time or a discipline, a character thing or anything, not errors, not strikeouts, but you do something wrong, that 10-year-old travel coach probably won't hold you accountable because he needs you in that lineup because he wants to win the game. And that's what's a problem.
Yeah, I agree with you now. And again, I'm going to be self-promoting and self-serving here. I think that one of the things that we talk to our coaches about is that very piece. Like, don't be afraid to hold your players accountable, right? Like, listen, if Jimmy is so good at shortstop that if you pull him from a game, you're going to lose, your team's not good.
Yes.
Jimmy has to learn the lesson, right? Or Billy or Bobby or whoever. And don't be afraid to do that because we're playing the long game here, right? Like, we can stack up all kinds of $12 trophies when they're 10 and 11. I've been to a handful of high school tryouts at this point. You've done a handful of high school tryouts at this point. I've never asked a sophomore in high school, like, hey, tell me about your season when you were 11. Right. How many trophies did you win? How many rings do you have on your shelf in your bedroom? Like, I don't care. Yeah. Can you play baseball? Well, you learn that when you're 10 and 11 and 12 with accountability and leadership and expectations. And, now we're blessed in that, we're a pretty small program. We have teams 8U through 16U, generally one team per level. And there's programs out there who will have 10U teams, right? And that's their business model. And it's not for me to critique or analyze or say anything negative about them. It's just not our business model. So because we're a little bit smaller, we get to know everybody and form relationships with parents and with players at multiple levels. And we have a really high retention rate, which is good. So we'll see guys who run our system from 10, like our now going to be 16U was our inaugural 10U team 6 years ago. And the majority of those kids are still together. There's pieces that get added, and as kids get older, some lose interest in baseball. There's always a new face, 2, 3, but the core 7, 8, 9 are still together. I think getting back to what you originally said about accountability is I think that starts at home. And it's been my experience, and we have great parents in our program across the board. We have great parents who are supportive, but when you have this many kids, you're going to see some parents who parent differently. It's not my job to tell people how to parent. I don't want anybody to tell me how to parent my kids because I could have used their help a long time ago. But I think that parents have to allow their kids to fail.
Yes.
And they have to allow their kids to be held accountable. And again, the overwhelming majority of our parents do just that. They sit back, they let the coaches coach. They're not it, but like with any organization, we have some parents who are trying to overcoach the coach, or they're right behind the dugout giving Billy, a granola bar between innings and consoling him, and like, fine, if you're 8, 9, I kind of get it. But at what age do we start allowing them the opportunity to succeed on their own and to fail on their own? And then on the car ride home, you comfort them and you make them feel good. And you say, hey, the beauty of baseball is you get to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you can get better at it. It's not like football where I got to wait till next week.
Yeah.
I get to go out tomorrow and practice and get better or play a game tomorrow. And one of the things we try and do parent-player meetings at the beginning of every season, especially for the new people who are coming into our program. And what we say to them is like, prepare your kid for the path. Don't try and prepare the path for your kid. And that's an old quote, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but I heard it a long time ago and loved it because I think that's one of the things that we have to fight as a baseball community is get comfortable with them failing. And if they can't get comfortable failing, baseball's probably not the sport for them, because there's no sport that's going to beat you down. Maybe golf, and that I say that only because my golf game is terrible. But baseball is going to beat you down, and it's never going to love you back the way that you loved it. And if you can't get comfortable and get tough and learn how to navigate that, well, it's not going to get easier, especially as you get older. And like we've been talking about, the competition gets stiffer. And now, holy cow, everybody here is really good.
Oh, yeah.
I got to beat a bunch of good players now. I'm not the 10-year-old who was just bigger and stronger than the other 10-year-olds. Now I'm against comparable talent. And the sooner that we can start preparing them for that battle and what ultimately becomes the battle of life, I think that we'll see great benefit in that.
Yeah. I mean, I have a parent meeting coming up next week, and the very first thing that I will do is I will say, I want everybody to understand. I'll say, hi, I'm Coach Phil and Jerry, introduce myself. I said, first thing I want everybody to understand is this. I want your kid to fail. It's exactly what I'll say. And then I'll tell them, I'll say, I know you don't want to hear that because it's embarrassing to you when your kid fails. And then I'll go into the whole thing that, you just basically explained, is that they need to fail. Years ago when I first got into the business that I'm in, one of the first journeymen that I worked with told me, if you're not failing, you're not learning. If you're not making mistakes, 100%. You're not learning. I learned that when I was 18 years old in my business. And it's the same thing in baseball. You have to learn how to fail.
Yeah, and I think as coaches, we got to be comfortable failing too.
Yes.
I have failed more than I've succeeded for sure. I've driven home after games and I should have done that, or I didn't like the way that I talked to this guy, or I should have had this guy do this. And that's part of the process.
Absolutely.
Right? It's part of the process. It's part of the process for everybody. And the sooner we can get comfortable with that and kind of embrace that, is the game actually gets easier and more enjoyable when you're not an emotional roller coaster after every strikeout or every error. It's like, how do you even like have the energy to make it to the fourth inning? Because I've seen you cry and then laugh and then yell at somebody, and now you're crying again and you're hungry and your mom's behind you in the dugout and your dad's yelling at you to throw strikes. It's like, how do you, this doesn't seem fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when we can let it go, it's going to be much more enjoyable for everybody.
Exactly. Have you been watching the Little League World Series at all?
I have sporadically. I try and watch it as frequently as I can. In my younger days when I was in the military, we used to watch the Little League World Series and like gamble on it and stuff, which was hilarious. Like everybody would pick a team and like, put $20 in, and there's some good baseball players. I'm still a little confused as to like the 12-year-olds playing at 60-foot bases with no leadoffs and stuff. The home run fence is 180 feet, but I understand the business of Little League World Series.
They actually moved the fence back. It's now 225.
Oh, really?
So if you notice, there
was a time where it was like everything that they hit was going 50 feet over the fence, and I'm like, well, this isn't.
Yeah, you're not seeing that anymore. They're actually playing. But the reason why I brought it up was because I watch a lot. I tape all of the games because I'm a lunatic, and when I have time, I'll watch the games.
Sure.
And some of the coaches, beautiful. Hey, come on, Johnny. Let's go. That's all they'll say. Okay.
Right.
There are other coaches. To your point, what you were just saying. I mean, it's a little different, but it's kind of the same thing. Every pitch, that coach from third base is saying something to that kid. Every single pitch. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, will you shut the hell up? Okay, that's number one. Number two, you don't realize what you're doing to that kid. Okay, the kid is now, let me say, what did coach say this time? What is coach going to say? What am I supposed to be doing now? That's not how we coach. Do that in practice.
Yeah, I think that, and as I self-reflect, listen, if I'm being fully transparent, I'm probably guilty of that at times.
So am I.
And certainly when I first started, I was very guilty of that. As I've gotten older and learned how to coach.
That's what it is.
I'm not saying that I still don't do it from time to time, but I have learned to understand sometimes the comments have a negative impact on players, and sometimes all they need to hear is, hey, give me an A swing. You're good. Get back in there, or nothing at all.
I was just going to say, but that's fine if you're yelling to the kid. And again, I'm bringing this up because, I did it too years ago. I did it a lot because I didn't know any better. But now that I know better, and I think I need to bring it up so that people that are listening understand that you shouldn't be doing that. But to your point, if you say, okay, I need an A swing here, that's fine. But don't do it every single pitch,
Right.
Because all you're doing is you're getting in the kid's head, maybe
or it's the equivalent of like, hey, throw a strike.
Exactly.
That always makes me laugh when I hear somebody throw a strike, and I'm like, well, what do you think he's trying to do?
Exactly. Yeah. Come on, let's throw strikes. I love that. I mean, don't get me wrong. From the dugout, I will. All right, come on, let's win this. Win this pitch for me. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, make an adjustment. Do something, right? But just to arbitrarily say throw a strike has always been.
Yeah, so my point was I don't know why, but like when you were saying about, the kid crying and this and that and, all of these things going on, I was thinking to myself that, some of these coaches, they're getting they don't understand that. And let's face it, baseball's a mental game. Okay. I've said it 100%. A million times and I'll say it again so that everybody in the back can hear me. Okay. I will take a marginally talented player with a very good, strong mental ability over a kid that's a stud and has a weak mental ability. I'll take it every time.
I mean, yeah, one's sustainable and one's not as a baseball player, right?
Yep.
Like if it, and toughness is a word that it now somehow feels like it has like almost a negative when people say, "Oh, I need your kid to be tough," like they're taking that in a negative way, and that's not really how like we express it. It's like I need your kid to like be willing to fight and be willing to like get back in and compete, and especially at the younger ages, the crying after the strikeouts. Well, we have coaches who are just like, "Hey, if you're crying, you're not playing. Like, sit down, get your composure together. It's a safety issue because how are you possibly going to see a line drive hit at your face if you're all welled up with tears? But B, you're not your best right now and you're not benefiting the team. So go sit down, have a sip of Gatorade, get your composure together. And then when you're ready to go, we'll reintroduce you back into the game." But that's not a sustainable model, especially as you get to the high school ages,
Oh,
because
God,
like
no.
if you're just not, you just go sit, like it's over because you know why? There's four other dudes that can go do it that competed for it. Like
Sure.
it becomes a little bit more, more real, I guess.
I had a player last year. He was on my depth chart to be my number 2 pitcher for that day. So, when the guy on the mound, if he ran into trouble, that he was ready to go. Well, he was sitting on the bench and you could see his body language was horrible. You could see he was like pouting. I told him to get up. I said, "Go to the bullpen, go get ready." He goes to the bullpen. He comes back, sits down, same thing. I never put him in the game. Never.
Yeah.
And after the game, I went over to him. I said, "Sit down. You know why you never went in the game?" I said, "Even though I got you loose, you were ready to go." I said, "You were pouting like a 4-year-old."
Yeah.
I said, you can't do that. Like you said, the kid's eyes are welled up. I can't put you in the game. You're already mentally checked out. I know you are.
Yeah, especially if you're a pitcher. Like the eyes, everybody sees you. And
Yeah.
everybody's working off of your tempo, right? And listen, I'm not saying it's good, but if you're out in right field and you're 275 feet away and you got some tears in your eyes and nobody can see you, like nobody can see you, right?
Right.
I'm not saying that's good, but when you're the pitcher, you're the center of the tension,
Yeah.
right? If your body language is terrible, if all you're doing is demoralizing your teammates, like, "Oh, this kid doesn't, what's this kid doing for us right now?" And if I'm on the opposing bench, I'm looking out there and going, "Well, we own this dude.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. He's
Like,
not
let's
ready.
go right at him. Look at him pout. Look at him shrug his shoulders because he doesn't like the umpire's strike zone," or, like you're just telling everybody. You're a big billboard telling everybody, "I'm defeated. Come and pile on."
Yeah.
So I commend you for making that move. And I think that that's the right thing. It's like, if you're not ready to go out and compete and show me that you're ready, then next guy.
Yeah, absolutely. But so tell me, because again, your program is to try and get guys ready for the high school level. What do you think the biggest challenges are with players making that jump from youth baseball to high school baseball?
I think that we could certainly talk about the dynamics of moving from a smaller field to the 90-foot field and the size and depth of that. It's been my experience that the period is very short in which they make that change, right? They get it pretty quickly,
Yeah.
right? And the first time they walk on that big 90-foot field with the fence that's 390 feet away, they go, "Oh my God, this is enormous." The backstop's 35 feet behind home plate, 3-4 weeks in, it's just the field, right? So I think that the biggest thing that, again, in my opinion, is learning how to play team baseball and learning how to control the baseball. Control the baseball and you're going to have a lot of success defensively. And that starts with how you play catch, right? We just got done a couple weeks ago with my least favorite time of the season, which was tryout season for our travel program. I despise it. I hate everything about it. It's a necessary evil, but it's the most miserable 6 days of the whole year, because it's just, you're going to have to make hard decisions, and all of the dynamics that go into that. But we start every tryout, and we break them by day, by age. But every tryout starts with, go play catch. Go play catch. We do our little spiel. We bring everybody together. We introduce ourselves, and then it's okay. Go out in right field, go out in left field, get a partner, play catch, and we will sit back and watch for 10 minutes and just take notes. And my guess is that a good 25% of the players who show up, they don't know it at the time, but they're cut just based on their inability to play catch, their inability to control the baseball, to play catch with intent, to move your feet, to make game-like throws, because the whole purpose of it is to get loose and get warm so that you can make good throws and control the baseball in the game. But we see a lot of lazy catch. We see a lot of, I'm catching the ball out here, and then I'm taking my time, and I'm lobbing it back, or I can't control the baseball, or we're 60 feet apart and I'm bouncing it, or I'm throwing it 15 feet over my partner's head. So you have to ask yourself, is that a skill deficiency, or is that just a lack of effort and attention to the details? Either one are bad.
Yeah.
When you get to the high school level, if you can't play catch, you're not going to be successful. Yeah. I don't care how good your bat is. I don't care how fast you are running 90 feet to first base. If you can't play catch, you're fighting an uphill battle. And I think that for me, it starts with, can you control the baseball? Can you just play catch? Yeah. And if you can do that, we can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's and would love to hear your opinion as a high school coach too. But that's my biggest thing, is like, let's teach kids how to play catch. Let's teach kids how to control the baseball. And then we have to balance that with not overcoaching them and allowing them to be athletes.
No doubt.
And this is a whole different conversation about the technical aspects of, well, my hitting coach said, or my pitching coach said, or my infield coach said. And it's like, I don't care what any of them said. Just go be an athlete and make a play. You make a great play defensively, nobody's going to go, well, your footwork kind of sucked there, dude. It's like, great play, bro.
Yeah.
Cool. We got out.
Yeah.
It's the most valuable commodity in baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
but getting back to your question, it was the catch thing that I think is the biggest opportunity for us.
The very, very first day of practice, boys come out. First thing I tell them, okay, is if you cannot catch and you cannot throw, you cannot play this game. Period. Yeah. That's it. Okay.
Right.
I like you said, I don't care, anything else if you can't catch and you can't throw. Now, our throwing program is very complex, and you and I can discuss that if you want later on, but it's very, very complex, to the point where we can only do like 2 or 3 of those drills when we introduce it at a time. We do 3, let them get that. Then one of my assistant coaches who works with them on it will give them 3 more, maybe even 2, and then they'll get that. By the end of the season, like this season, I think there's 20 drills. I think we only got to 16 or 17. We didn't get to all of them. Okay? So to me, that's how important catch play is.
Yeah, you can't even get to drill number 1 if you can't play basic catch.
Yeah.
And it's a lost art. You tell kids, even at the high school teams, you tell them, go, we're going to run, stretch, throw, so they'll do their little run out to center field, touch the, the fence, and then they'll come back and they'll do their stretches. Most of them don't know how to really stretch, and then they'll play catch, and it's kind of like grab ass, and everybody's joking around, and, they're talking about where they went last night. Did you see that cute girl that's out in left field or sitting behind home plate? And like, all that's cool, but like, multitask here. Like, you can talk and throw at the same time.
Sure.
But throw with some intent. Don't get mad at me then when you're the third baseman and you get a routine ground ball and you throw it 15 feet over the first baseman's head. Well, whose fault is that? Because when I watched you warm up for an hour before the game, you didn't have a care in the world. There was no focus, there was no intent, there was no energy. And I'm not saying that you have to be locked in, laser focused the entire time, but you didn't prepare with a purpose. And now you get the results that you get.
So when we do our catch play, and I'm kind of like, this is self-serving, but I'm proud of it. When we do our catch play, it's almost synchronized. So in other words, when one side throws the ball, they all hit the glove on the other side at the same time. So,
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. It may not be, just one pop. It may be like 2 or 3 pops that you hear. Okay, so we do it like that because of what you just said. Okay, I want it to be disciplined. I don't want them, thinking about something else and, like you said, lollygagging. So we played a game this spring, and it was a team that wasn't in our section. It was a team
Sure.
we had to travel an hour and a half to go play them. And when they did their catch play, the other coach came over to me and he looked at me and he said, "What the hell is that?" Like that.
Yeah, I've seen it before. I've never seen it in person. I've seen obviously YouTube videos of it before. And my first thought is always like, well, my kids would never be able to do that, even though they would.
They would.
I'm sure with some practice. I saw a lot of that. I have a daughter who's now entering her senior year of high school and played softball for many, many years. And I actually got into coaching, 10, 11 years ago, whatever it was, 12 years ago, when she decided she wanted to start playing softball. And she was playing at first just regular house rec softball. And the guy running the program, who I now run muscle baseball with, pulled all the parents together and said, "Hey, we're looking for coaches, any volunteer coaches. It's a rec league, so you don't have paid coaches." And I was like, well, how hard could it be? I know baseball. So that's how I started to get into coaching. And I will tell you that softball is different, but I will also tell you that girls, way tougher than the boys. Way tougher than the boys. And my dad coached high school basketball for many, many, many years and coached sometimes started off with the girls and then transitioned to the boys. And he would always tell me, like, girls are way easier to coach. He's like, they're less emotional. And I was like, really? He's like, oh, yeah, they'll just get mad at you, but they won't cry. They won't, they'll just get mad at you and, not talk to you, He's like, but they're more fundamentally sound and they're tougher. And I never really gave it much thought, to be honest with you, until I started watching my daughter. And as she played more competitive softball, way tougher than the boys. Way tougher. So kudos to all of the softball coaches out there, because I wouldn't ever want to coach softball again because it's crazy fast and crazy. And I'm like, holy cow, this is insanity.
I mean, I've heard that many, many times, talk to guys who have coached softball, and everything that you just said is exactly what I've heard. So
Yeah.
a couple of more things before I let you go. So,
Sure.
what do you think has been like your most rewarding part of your coaching career so far?
For me, that's an easy one, and it's the relationships, right? It's not, we won this game or how heartbroken we were when we lost that game or this kid's home run. It's the relationships with the families. It's the relationships with the players. It's going to, in Morton Grove, we have a carnival fireworks thing with a concert 4th of July weekend, and people go and there's a beer garden and it's a great time, but it's always cool when you see a kid who's standing in line to go to the Ferris wheel or whatever, and they see you. It's like they leave the line to come over and fist bump you and be like, "Hey, what's up, coach?" Or, this past spring, getting text messages from, our freshman group saying, "Hey, coach, I made my JV team," or "I made my freshman team." Or the parents who come up to you and, "Hey, thanks for all of your hard work this season. And, Bobby got so much better at baseball." And that credit's not mine. That's Bobby's credit. But, it's the relationships that I've been able to form within the community that we've created. It's the relationships that I have with the other amazing coaches in our program who, I was telling you yesterday, you could go on a random Tuesday, and if the 12U team is playing a game on a Tuesday in June and there's other coaches who maybe don't have a game or a vision, you'll see those coaches at the 12U game talking to the families and talking to the kids. So without a doubt, as much as I love the X's and O's in baseball and the competition of baseball, the relationships are what matter. And the relationships are what will matter long after the last baseball is thrown and the last double is hit. It's the invitations to the block parties or the family get-togethers or the weddings or the text messages or the phone calls that, for me personally, make it all worth it, because I get to share my life with so many incredible people in our program that it's truly fulfilling well beyond the baseball field.
But that's really a two-way street, because if you weren't a good coach, you didn't take care of your players, you didn't care about your players, then you wouldn't have those relationships. So, and the reason why I said that is I want people to understand is that as a coach, that's what you're striving for. Okay, to make sure that people know, like I say at the end of every show, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's what creates those relationships, my opinion. But
no, and you're doing a great job of that, like we talked about early, in creating those relationships and expanding relationship networks. And it's because of guys like you that the game is in a healthy place and will continue to grow and prosper. And that's all. That's beautiful.
So if you had one closing message to youth coaches, players, parents, what would it be?
Get better. Just work on getting better, and it's there's no finish line. It's get better every day in some way, right? And that may be 1% better, or that may be 0.5% better every day. And just, if you can do that and commit to getting better every day, whether that's on the baseball field or academically or as an employer or employee, husband, father, just try and get better every day, and be humble enough to know that you don't know. Like I said, there's not a day that goes by where I don't question, am I a good coach?
Yeah.
Am I doing things the right way? And again, I take comfort in knowing that I have resources to help make me better within my own organization, where we have amazing coaches, and externally. But the goal is to get better. And if as coaches, we're going to put an expectation on our players that they get better, well, you better get better.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. So, Shawn, I want to thank you for reaching out. This was a great show. And, again, another relationship built. Yeah.
No, I really appreciate it. And more importantly, then hopefully this is a good show for you. I appreciate that I now have you in my phone, and my sincere hope that we can continue to communicate and touch base and learn from each other. And that is far more important to me than, the last hour of the show that we did, which was awesome. And I'm grateful to have done it and thank you for it. But now having you as part of my baseball community is the most rewarding part of it.
I thank you for that. Almost everybody that's on the show, I always have a lasting relationship with. It's not every day, it's not every week, it's not every month, but that's what it's about.
100%. Couldn't agree with you more. And thanks again for giving me the opportunity.
It's all my pleasure. So that's going to wrap up today's conversation with Shawn Chuipek of Muscle Baseball and Notre Dame College Prep. What I really liked about this conversation and Shawn's outlook on things is, he's trying to get players ready for high school baseball, which I'm not sure that everybody else is doing. I've said it a million times. Everybody's heard me say it, that we get them at the high school level, and there's so many things that they don't know that it's almost impossible to teach them everything that we need to teach them in just a few short years that we have them. So what winds up happening is who suffers? Number one, the player, and then number two, the college coach. Because when they get to college, they still don't know the game when they get there. And I just think that it's a great concept to try and teach them, from the time that they start playing all the way up. And then at high school, we could take them a little further. And in college, they could take them even further. I just love the concept. So one of the things I forgot to do is give Shawn time to give his contact information. So I'm going to give it to you now. If you want to reach out to him at Muscle Baseball, it's muscleathletics.org. And on Facebook and Instagram, he's at Muscle Athletics. His email, info@musclebaseball.org. And also don't forget about his high school teams, Dynamis Baseball. So that's dynamisbaseball.org. DYNAMIS baseball.org. And he's also on Instagram there at DynamisBB. And his email is info@dynamisbaseball.org. So, if you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Visit the website at thectbshow.net. Listen to your favorite episodes and please leave us a review. You can also reach out to the show on social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and get this, the old man has finally got us on TikTok. Keeps me young. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, please drop us an email at clearingthebases@gmail.com. Your feedback helps us bring you the best content and reach more people in the baseball community just like you. And also, let me know if you'd like to be a guest. Until then, coaches and players, keep practicing, stay positive, and remember, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.